For the 30th year running, the overwhelming majority of countries across the globe have voted to end the US embargo of Cuba. 185 nations said that it was time to end the economic sanctions regime at the United Nations General Assembly, with only the US and Israel opposing the resolution dubbed "Necessity of Putting an End to the Economic, Commercial and Financial Blockade Imposed by the United States on Cuba." Ukraine and Brazil abstained from the vote. Her Excellency Inga Rhonda King, St. Vincent and the Grenadines representative to the UN, reiterated her country's, quote, unequivocal support for this resolution, calling for an immediate end to the economic, commercial and financial blockade imposed by the United States. King noted that the resolution had been receiving almost unanimous support since 1992, a circumstance she said sent, quote, a firm and clear message that the international community rejects this anachronistic, illegal and illegitimate blockade. King called for an end to the 60-year-old embargo, the deleterious effects of which have been worsened due to current prevailing economic conditions, such as, quote, soaring inflation and the rise in global food prices. The result, King says, are billions of dollars in losses for Cuba's economy and a denial of, quote, countless developmental opportunities. The Vincentian diplomat said it was, quote, past time for this unjust instrument of oppression to end. King ended her statement on a hopeful note, saying that the 30th consecutive show of overwhelming support for the resolution might serve as renewed encouragement for the United States to finally do away with the harmful policy. However, are King's hopes unfounded? This year's no vote from the US is a step backward from the progress made under President Barack Obama, when in 2016, the US and Israel abstained instead of voting no for the first time in the then 25-year history of the annual vote. That year, 191 of the General Assembly's 193 members voted in favor of the resolution to end the blockade. However, with the arrival of President Trump, the U.S. returned to its pattern of voting no and also rescinded the efforts that had been made by the Obama administration to improve the relationship between the two countries. At the time, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez said that the reversal, quote, escalated the siege around our country, taking it to an even crueler and more inhuman dimension with the purpose of deliberately inflicting the biggest possible damage on Cuban families. On May 16th of this year, current U.S. President Joe Biden announced the relaxing of a limited number of Cuban sanctions and other regulatory changes in an attempt to expand communication, travel, and commerce between the two nations. The changes included a family reunification policy to make it, quote, possible for more Cubans to join their families in the United States via regular migration channels. Scheduled and charter flights to locations beyond Havana are now authorized once again, a relaxation of the restrictions implemented in 2019 and 2020. There is also support for greater access to U.S. internet services, applications, and e-commerce platforms, and the reduction of barriers in sending remittances from Cubans in the U.S. to family back home. Despite these concessions, the 60-year-old embargo, which Rodriguez called a, quote, deliberate act of economic war with effects equivalent to, quote, a permanent pandemic, a constant hurricane, is still the policy of the United States government, even as almost the entire world calls on the U.S. for a change of heart.